So I see a pattern emerge here after watching some of the news, and I understand viruses. And viruses are invisible because you don't know when they're going to hit, how strong they're going to be, and who they're targeting. Okay? You're not going to know how strong these viruses are going to be, who they're going to hit, and what they're targeting. That's the same thing as what's going on with these lone gunmen. Okay? These lone gunmen, I'm going to call them the viruses. These viruses, I'm going to call the viruses. Who develop these viruses are viruses. I'm not going to put a name. I'm not even going to put a group. But you already know, what's going on for the most part. So I'm not going to be making assumptions that this group, this group, this group. Viruses are about upgrading or destroying. That's what viruses are. It's all in how you respond to them and all in how they are intended and how the person responds to them. And that's it. There's nothing else to say about as far as the viruses. So now we know that the viruses that run people are keeping the balance of Mother Nature, Mother Earth. Okay? And so you remember the Revolutionary War. And you won't remember it. But I remember reading about Johnny Tremaine and the Redcoats. And how the Redcoats were always in an organized fashion. And they're marching. You know how they did their warfare was they would march like in their lines of groups. And they would go on a battlefield, this side and this side, and one would kneel down, the group or the line in the front would kneel down, shoot, and then they would go, and then the next line would go and shoot, or they would march in formation down a very predictable path. And then the colonists, the people who were revolting against the British, they were hanging from trees. What were they doing? They were doing guerrilla warfare. What's guerrilla warfare? I remember the guerrillas back in the Sandinistas back in the 1980s when there was stuff going on overseas and all the guerrillas were taking out the Americans. Okay? And so what is guerrilla warfare? What is guerrilla warfare? Damn. Guerrilla warfare is a form of irregular warfare in which small groups of combatants, small group of viruses such as paramilitary personnel, armed civilians, or irregulars use military tactics including ambushes, sabotage, raids, petty warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and mobility to fight a large and less mobile traditional military. See, the traditionalists are going to have their asses handed to them. And those are in the politics, religion, and science. A lot of them are veterans. Okay? And they should know this, but I'm telling you, people do not know how to evolve when it comes to strategy. They think they're going to use the old same tactics that we used way back when and then all the way up to this point. No, there is so much strategy when it comes to warfare. And so then you got to think about human sacrifice. Why did the Aztecs do the human sacrifice? Why did the sun worshippers do the human sacrifice? Well, let's read that. According to Aztec cosmology, the sun god Huitzilopochtli, and I know I totally messed that up, was waging a constant war against the darkness. And if the darkness won, the world would end. To keep the sun moving across the sky and preserve their very lives, the Aztecs had to feed Huitzilopochtli with human hearts and blood. And what are you seeing right now? We're seeing lone gunmen pop up in crowded places, whether it's at a school where no one's seeing it coming because the kids are unarmed. They're not expecting someone to come in and mow them down, or somebody, or people at a grocery store, which you're like, oh crap, yeah, at a grocery store. Okay, they're like, well, you're supposed to go to a grocery store. Well, yeah, but you got to figure out, you got to be aware of your surroundings, or at parties, or at concerts. And so you're seeing there's a pattern here that anywhere where there's a group gathering, you are more liable to be caught in the crossfire of some virus going off the deep end, whether it was programmed to do that intentionally, you won't know, Manchurian candidate, or if someone actually was having a meltdown because of their situation. you're never going to know what the truth. You'll never know. So you can't make correlation equals causation because, oh, there might be a Manchurian. You don't know this. You can't assume it. You just got to assume that right now the system, the Mother Earth is trying to break up the cancers. And also warn you, you need to stay home and stay safe for the most part. You can't run your life like you did before. You got to understand what's going on here. We're in a very different simulation civilization. And so a lone gunman is like a monkeypox virus. You don't know where it's going to pop up, when it's going to pop up. You know, there's things in the background, things are going on. People have rumors of actual intention and programming, but can you prove it? No, so don't even bother. So assume nothing, but assume everything. And how are you going to keep yourself safe? Well, the weakness in numbers means that you don't want to be traveling in packs. You don't want to be in large spaces with groups of people because you don't know if this person is going to go off the deep end. And you don't know if someone's mutating a virus or not. I mean, that's the thing, is that you're seeing a pattern here. Lone gunmen and viruses, you don't know when they're going to pop up. Now, they're warning you, the system is warning you, hey, we have monkeypox. They're having 9 different antiviral labs that are going to be created somewhere across the U.S. or across the world, I don't know. And they're specifically creating antivirals for Ebola, the Marburg virus. Same family. Other cold and flu viruses. And so when cold meets warm, you know, hot meets cold, when positive and negative come together, guess what you have? You get fertility. So when someone gives you an antiviral for the Marburg virus and whatever other virus, then you know it's going to hit someone who's potentially positive, and there's going to be variants called offspring. And so they're already warning you, if you're paying attention, if you can't even wrap your mind around that we're in a fucking war. And it's a microbial war, and it's also a war with the system trying to recalibrate. And I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's good. I just want you to be aware and survive it. That's it. There's no way to stop it. There's no strength in numbers. There's weakness in numbers. That's what I was trying to explain to that guy yesterday, who said, no, we just need to rise up and gather together the strength in numbers. And I'm like, no, that's how they're going to defeat you, is your numbers. Whether it's in your politics, Democrat or Republican, religion, or scientific dogmas. Look at all the synagogue, casualties, and the church casualties, the grocery store casualties, the school casualties. Is that not at all resonating with you, or are you just thinking that, oh, you can go and defeat whatever you can't even see, you don't even know where they are? It's every. I'm telling you guys, you got to see this pattern. So let me just read this, just because I like the flow. How to survive the viral microbial guerrilla warfare tactics and the lone gunman guerrilla warfare tactics. Your weakness is in numbers, and your strength is in autonomy, because they are breaking up the homogenous groups. And that includes the people who go to the mall and public gatherings, as well as your politics, your religion, and your scientific dogmas. Who's they? The viruses running the lone gunman and the viruses mutating your viruses. And these viruses, I'm not giving a name to them because I'm not going down those fucking rabbit holes that you know people are going to go down and start doing correlation equals causation, making assumptions and discrediting themselves because they can't prove shit. But you know, you can prove a virus will cause someone to go a little cuckoo. And you know, when you have a bunch of people hanging out together mutating a virus, people go a little cuckoo. Okay? So remember the Revolutionary War and Johnny Tremaine and the Redcoats and the colonists planned the guerrilla warfare tactics, hanging from trees and picking off the British Redcoats left and right. Finally, I guess the British had to go and retreat because their organized traditional way of fighting wasn't going to fucking work when they were dealing with people who were not organized. But their disorganization was their strength. Now, our organization is our weakness. Now you got to disorganize and you got to disperse. You got to do the opposite of what happened in the Revolutionary War in 1776, if you watched all those different movies. And so just watch your current events. A lot of human sacrifice going on because of so much light. There's such a thing as too much light in life. But the ones that stay alive don't become a statistic. So, but be the one to stay alive and don't become a statistic or a human sacrifice. Okay? Because we know that there are a lot of sun worshippers out there and they run our society. Okay, fine, that's fine. They're finding the balance in light and darkness. Because you have the light, you have the night, and you have the day. And it's as above, so below, light, night and day, death and reproduction, or death and life, all that, the binary stuff, okay? Satan and Jesus. Okay, so just watch your current events. A lot of human sacrifice is going on because there's so much life. There's such a thing as too much life. So, okay, so according to the Aztec cosmology, okay, here we go. We are not that different from our ancestors as far as balancing out the light and the darkness. If we have too much light, it will turn into darkness, and so extinguishing the light so it doesn't turn dark is the conundrum that people have a hard time wrapping their minds around. And our world today is reflecting that we have to extinguish a lot of light so we don't get darkness. And that is another thing that people have a hard time wrapping their mind around, is that in order for people to live, many are going to have to pass away. But they're still giving you a choice in the matter. You can pretend that nothing exists and you go off into your birthday parties and all your gatherings and go to the concerts and go to the malls and send your kids off to school as if we're not in some kind of pandemic or some crazy thing, but you can't live your life in fear. Well, at this point, what are you going to do? You're going to go and just roll the dice every day, or you're going to be strategic in how you move about and what you do and how you do it. Homeschooling isn't bad. But I want my kids to have the life. I want my kids to have a good life and be out there and socialize. And well, obviously that world's changing. And if you want to live the old way, okay, then you will roll the dice every single day in this environment. And so remember, you can't save everyone. You can only save yourself. And even if you know there are things catalyzing what could potentially be mass extinction events, don't waste your time or your energy saving other people unless you're willing to write something that will give people a reason to listen to you. Your information must be organized and understand both sides of the issue and still give people options, and avoid coming off biased because someone will easily discredit you and turn the argument around on you. And I've had it done to me many times. I've done it to myself. Remember, correlation is not equal causation. You have to understand the exact chain of events and then give people options and choices, because you don't know what's going on under other people's skin. You're only making assumptions. And so I even have to learn how not to make assumptions, but I also know what everyone's dealing with, and I've stood in their shoes at one point in time. And I studied different aspects of history in different contexts, so that way I could prove a potential possibility. So have you stood in the shoes of other people and be honest about it? Many of you have not, nor will you, and so there's no way you can understand somebody else's situation unless you put yourself in that situation, and then you might have a different argument or no argument at all. So, school shootings, viruses taking people out, traveling in packs. There is never any way to prove anyone's intentions. And so you can only draw a conclusion and consider every possibility, which means that if every possibility is a possibility, then you need to stay home, stay safe for the most part, and be very aware of your surroundings, and don't be complacent, because this world is very unstable and you can't assume anything. So assume everything. And everyone in the West is in an individual war. And you will see traveling in packs will make it easy for the guerrilla warfare to pick off people in packs. And that includes lone gunmen and people who hang out together mutating a virus. Now you see the patterns here, which is why you need to be more autonomous and not. And don't assume the pack is going to protect you, because they won't, they can't, they don't even see it coming. Okay? So microbial lone gunman guerrilla warfare, and the American people do not even know. They don't even see it coming because they think traditionally. They don't evolve their warfare tactics. The American people and the West and most of the first world are complacent. And I was a little broken because I'm trying to read and look at the same time. But I'm saying that if you can acknowledge that we're in a war, you might actually have a chance. If you don't think we're in a war right now, then don't even bother listening to my information. Just go live your life as if you're in fucking unicorn land. And there are so many people that are living their life as if they're in unicorn land. But I know we're in a war because I feel it already. I sneezed like 20 times today. Like in a row. I went outside like in the afternoon. I came in. I was sneezing outside. I couldn't stop sneezing. And I came in. I was sneezing. I was sneezing. I was sneezing. So whatever was in the air, and they say it's high pollen count, but yeah, pollen also holds the viruses of people in the different areas that are blowing their nose and coughing into the wind. And then the pollen picks up all those little viruses and things. And then it brings it in different places, and you breathe it in, and you have to go and reconcile with that. And that means sneezing. So if you ain't sneezing in this type of weather and blowing your nose, I don't know what's going on. It's incubating inside. But I'm saying, you know, we're in a war. And if you don't see it, I don't know what kind of rock you're living under. But let me tell you, I don't even know. And you think the therapies are going to save you? Oh, you have another thing coming. Because there's going to be the monkeypox. There's going to be so many other antivirals and other types of, oh my God. And when East meets West, you're going to have an explosion. When hot meets cold, you're going to have an explosion. When positive plus negative happens, you're going to have an explosion. That's called fertility, pandemics, new viral variants. And we're going to have, I told you, back to back pandemics. I said this a couple months ago. We're going to be in a pandemic, back-to-back pandemics. You thought that we were out of the woods with COVID. Oh, honey, there's so much more. And then you have the lone gunmen. They're going to pop up in different places, just like a little virus that you will not expect. And it's only those that are traveling in packs, making themselves a target. All right, bye.